Ashoka is this global movement of change makers. And then they have fellows, Ashoka fellows around the world. There are 3,000 Ashoka fellows around the world. It's a little bit like a tribe of people doing all kinds of different things around changing, change making. Rajesh is the boss for Singapore, Malaysia, Ashoka. He's from India, living in Singapore. He's a very wonderful individual. When I was nominated to be a fellow, he was the one who led the team to investigate me and my life and the work. And he came with the team to Sabah to talk to our partners and interview, referees and such. So he's been here a couple of times. So what will happen is he co-developed the modules with other systems thinking people. And it's very much an Ashoka resource because Ashoka thinks through the systems lens. They operate as an institution through the systems lens, and they support systems thinking change makers. So what will happen is there's an intro, he'll come on, he'll do a few highlights of that, he'll unpack it a little bit, then we'll look at module 1, then he'll talk again, module 2, he'll talk again, will be the last chunk of time, then we have maybe a bit of dialogue with him. So this will go on till about 1 p.m. Yeah? So let's hit play on that video. You guys online, you do the same. And then I believe you go into breakout room. No, wait. Rajesh comes on straight after. So you'll see Rajesh join at some point on Zoom. So he'll be there quietly lurking. But we're going to watch our video. Okay, let's play.
Hi, Cynthia. Thank you very much for having me here. Really excited to have this conversation with your team. So good morning. I know that was a short video compared to the ones coming up next. So what did you learn? If I could hear a few people just share what emerged for you while you were watching that video.
Neville has something to say.
Hi Rajesh, I'm just looking forward to learn new tools and finding more about what it is about.
Got it.
Hi Rajesh. The slide I really loved was the slide which said, you're going to need 3 things to do this. 1, you're going to have to be ready for nuance, and you're going to have humility, and you have to do this with community. You can never do it alone. I thought that was very powerful because that seemed to me a beautiful way of linking the complexity of the system with the internal change that we need to make if we are to follow this. So I love that slide.
Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, I just, my quick take on that was I was pleased to know that there was a chance you can change something that's, if a system is already in place, you think it's almost impossible to change. But that small example, the few examples that they made shows that, you just have to do some small things and it's something big can happen. Like the girl who made that scholarship fund, which you thought would have been difficult for somebody to think that because her parents were obviously incarcerated and she had to get scholarships. So I like that. I like the fact that you can find a way to actually change an existing system.
I think Joan here has something.
Yeah. What is that slide about getting to the root cause and just keep asking questions and keep asking why, at the very least 5 times.
Yeah. So thanks a lot for sharing some of your comments. I think that's really nice. So let's keep it going. You don't have to believe everything you see, so it's good to always question. That's one of the interesting learnings from systems change. And I really liked what Jennifer said. What if the systems don't have to be fixed, and there's always an opportunity for us to either challenge a system or create a new system, right? So I just want to share two things. So first thing is the problems that you see are a result of certain systems at play. Most of the time, the problems that we see are visible to us, and most of the time we tend to solve for those problems. We call them symptoms, but they are not, and they are a result because of certain inefficiencies within a system. Either something is missing, or there is too much power around one stakeholder, or a relationship is only one way. Because of that, you tend to see these problems. And when you start to think at a systemic level, the invitation is to start solving problems in the system. Because if you start doing that, and if a system reorients or a system tends to achieve newer results, then it will shift the problem rather than solving the problem for a few hours or a few days. So that is one key insight that I want to share. And I think the rest of the slides or the rest of the videos will give you those tools and frameworks to bring us certain science to it, right? So that is one. Second thing is, I have an example. I'll just take you through the example, and I would love to hear some answers from all of you. Okay. The example is this. Say, for example, you go to the beach today and you're walking down the beach, and then all of a sudden you see a lot of dying starfish. Okay, and they have just been swept onto the beach, and there are lots of them. What are you most likely to do? So I'll repeat that again. You go to the beach, you're walking down the beach, and suddenly you see a lot of dying starfish, and they're all on the beach. What are you likely to do? Can I hear
Throw it
some?
back in the ocean.
Come
Start
again?
throwing the starfish back into the ocean.
Start throwing them back. That was the answer I was looking for. So that's, and thanks for sharing that answer. When you see, so the starfish is a problem that you see in front of your eyes. And the first thing for us as change makers or social entrepreneurs or problem solvers is to take that problem and throw it back, right? So you took the starfish and throw it back. Now my big question is this: will that solve the problem? That solution that you just did, does it solve the problem? I would like to hear other answers too. What will you do when you see starfish on the ocean floor?
I would like to know why it's there.
Yeah.
Why all of them are there in the first place.
Yeah. That's a good question. So why are they? Why are they here? Why do you think a lot of starfish are washing onto the shore, right? So we'll hold on to that thought. Just would like to hear some crazy ideas coming from people. What will you do?
A bunch of friends, I suppose. I'll get help because I don't think I can do it alone.
That's right. Very good answer. You'll get help. And that's something we do in most of our solutions, right? We get volunteers, we hire people, we might build an organization, we can call it Free the Starfish, Save the Starfish, right? So these are things that we are likely to do, right? What else?
Take a water sample, send it to the lab.
Okay, that's also very interesting. So you're thinking from a research mindset. Okay, I need to figure out why are these starfishes here? Yeah.
To be realistic, I will take picture.
You'll take a picture, yes. You'll take a picture, put it on social media. These are great solutions. You'll take a picture, put it on social media, tag a lot of friends, build some kind of awareness, all of that. Um, nobody spoke about building an app, right? I think we should also build an app, right? We should build an app. We should call it Save the Starfish. We should do a geo mapping of the beaches, you know. So thanks a lot for
Yeah,
sharing. Sorry, anybody else?
last one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just Google and check what's going on. Probably
Yeah.
something is going on. Yeah.
Something's going on, something's not right. Yeah, yeah. No, so thanks a lot for sharing the solutions, right? And the solutions that we can have to any problem can range from like taking the starfish and throwing it back, calling more people, building an app, taking a picture, researching on it, asking the questions. So there are many ways to tackle problems when they see. The question we need to ask ourselves is this: does the solution that we currently have solve the problem? So throwing a starfish back, does it solve the problem? The starfish can come back tomorrow. Taking a picture and putting on social media, is that can be a great start, but does it solve the problem, right? So systemic change starts when you ask questions like what Jennifer asked, or somebody said, let's research about it. Like, why does this problem exist, right? So by the way, this was a real problem. It happened in UK. Starfishes did come onto the beach, and people did go around figuring out why this problem existed. And they realized, and people thought it could be because of climate change, it could be because of sickness, right? And after some research by a group of environmentalists, they realized that the starfishes were coming to the beach because of illegal dredging. So it's an activity that's done by these trawlers that tends to dredge the seabed, and as a result, it was displacing the starfish or affecting their natural home base. And because of that activity, a lot of them were coming onto the shore. And this group of people then went on to work with the government to bring about a certain policy change. And because of the policy change, trawlers needed to have a license, etc. So you see what happened as a result of it. Over time, there was a policy shift that was able to solve the problem. But it took a couple of years, but you see how that problem went from dying starfish to policy change to shifting mindsets to uh, changing the system. So that is the journey of systems change, and that's what you're going to learn in the rest of the slides, and we'll go through it as they come. Okay.
Great.
Yes, Cynthia, I'm
Thanks.
with this. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Rajesh. So we're going to put a pause here on Rajesh.
Yeah.
It's going to be frozen now like that. And we're going to go into module 1. Those of you online as well, click onto your links there and let's watch it together. All right, let's go.
The one that I am working on, actually, it helped me to look at so many layers, so many, there's just so many to take in. and then it's so fast. Yeah, but it helps me to open up that actually that problem. There's so many system that is actually how do you say helping or thriving, make the problem thrives, you know. So at first we thought it was just one, but actually when you look into all the, you know, what are the roles and what are the all the kind of system, I realized that my God, is that we are talking about plastic. For me, it's like plastic, a lot of plastic. Is that every system is actually helping the problem. So my God, it's like, yeah. So it was good.
Thanks for sharing, Winnie. So I can just unpack a few things so it becomes much more clearer. So the first thing you would have heard is the different levels of impact, right? And you would have heard of direct service, you would have heard of scale direct service, systems change, and framework change, right? So why is this significant? Because the activities that you do every day or the solutions that you design can have impact at any of these levels. Okay. So most of the time, most of the activities we create tend to have an impact at a direct service or a scale direct service, because that's when we get to learn more about the system, the people in the system, the intricacies of the system, what roles they play, etc. And over time, what I invite people to do is transition that activity to a systemic impact or a framework change impact. Because if you want that problem to go away, the problem of plastic to go away, uh, continuously recycling plastic or converting that plastic into some other form may not solve the problem, right? There is a lot of behavioral shifts that need to be changed. Some new resources might have to be introduced into the system. People have to let go of using plastic in their homes. There's so many things here. So I think that's where you have to think of activities that will happen at a systems and a framework level. So framework means mindset. You have to shift a mindset so a new system can emerge, right? So that is the one thing, first thing I want to share. Second thing is, what is a system, right? In a simplest words, system has different people in it, right? Different actors in it. In a system, they are connected to each other, and the system has a purpose, right? So the educational system or the public health system, right? Or say, for example, your digestive system. They're all systems because there are different things in the system. They're all connected and it has a purpose. If it does not have these three, then it is not a system, right? So that's how you understand what a system is. So whenever you think of a system, the easiest thing to think about is who is in the system, how are they related, and what is the system achieving. That's the easiest way to think about system when it comes to understanding the language of a system, right? So that's the second thing I want to highlight. Um, the third thing is, then what does system change, right? So you understand what a system is, then what does systems change, right? So I think that is something that Odin and the other facilitator was talking about. So if I have to simply define systems change, it is about shifting the conditions that hold a problem in place, right? So if you can shift the conditions around a problem, then that system will change. It might sound theoretical right now, but we can also look into the details and figure out how to practice it. But that is when the system begins to create a new set of results, right? Then that's what really matters, right? Then I think there was an exercise around identifying the big problems. So that is the problems that you see, and then asking yourself, why does this problem exist? And each why can be framed as a system, right? Because the why clearly tells you why this problem is existing. And you could put a boundary around that why and say, okay, let me define a system around that why. So that's also one way to look into the system and figure out where the problem is. And I think there was one more exercise which spoke about the 5 hours. This is my favorite. If you don't remember anything else, if you remember the 5 hours, I think it will be a lifelong companion and it will be your best takeaway. So you could use to map as long as you can put a boundary to a system, right? If you define a system with its boundaries, you can use the 5 hour to map any system, right? So I'll just go over the 5 hours again. As I said before, in any system that you're working in, there are different actors in the system, right? And that's what we call by the first R, which is role. Right? Say, for example, if you are working in the system of sustainable palm oil supply chain, right? There are different actors in that supply chain, right? So it could be the people who maintain the forests. It could be government agencies. It can be NGOs. It can be the people who work in the forest, etc. So all of that come into play. That is what we call by role. The second R is relationship. There are different forms of or kinds of relationship that exist between these actors. Sometimes there can be no relationship, right? Sometimes relationship can be one way. Sometimes the relationship can be very authoritative, right? Which is maybe causing the problem, right? So a classic example that I can give you is for the longest time in the education system, there was only one relationship between the teacher and the student. One way, chalk and talk. And you know what happened, right? Because of chalk and talk. What happened was we started creating robots in the system. There was no there was no dialogue. There was no qualitative thinking. So how did people change it? They, instead of making it a one-way chalk and talk, they made it a two-way relationship between the teacher and the student, and emphasized on it and created tools for it. That changed the results in the system, right? So that's the second R. The third R is rules. Any system that you're working in is defined by a certain set of rules. And I think this is very important because any system that you're working in has laws, has policies, has age-old practices, right? And this is something we are very familiar with, right? Age-old practices, and these things are set by human beings, and because of that, sometimes the system creates problems. So I'll give you an example. So I got a chance to go to this island in Indonesia called Sumba. And Sumba has an age-old practice. And the age-old practice is that they don't bury the dead till they throw a big feast. So every time somebody in the family dies, they actually keep the dead till they can sacrifice some goats, throw a big feast and stuff. So what happened was people never had money to throw a big feast. So they used to borrow money, right? And then again, they go into more debt. But if you look at that one particular tradition, the tradition was not burying the dead because of that practice. So that, went on for years. It just kept putting people into a lifelong cycle. Now, so if you look closely at most communities from Sumba, and I'm talking about communities that don't even have access to electricity, a lot of them were poor because of this particular custom, right? And shifting that custom or helping them think differently about it shifted that particular condition they were in. So that's what I mean by a particular rule or a law that helps. The next two R's are, the first one is the fourth one is resources. Resources are things that go into a system. It's almost like saying an input. It could be money, it could be human resources, it could be new tools that you create that the system never had, right? And the final R is called results. So what we mean by a result is what is coming out of the system, right? And say, for example, if you look at any system, if you map any system, say, for example, the education system, you could say that the result of the current education system is there are a lot of robots coming out of the system. That means there is no learning that is nourishing. It's just one way, right? So that's a result of a system. And anytime when you're trying to bring about a systems change, you have to think about what should be the new result, right? So in your case, just from my limited understanding, I could say that the indigenous people in your system don't have a voice. Right? That's a current result in the system, right? Or the indigenous people in the system are not treated fairly, right? That is a result of the system. So what do you want as a new result? The moment you say that I want the indigenous people in the system to have a voice, I want all indigenous people to be treated as equals. When you say that is a new result you want, then something else needs to change in the system from the other R's to create that new result, right? So every system can be mapped using the 5 R's. That will give you an idea of where the current system is. And the next question that you have to ask yourself is, what is the new result I want, and how do I take the system there? Right? So that's how systems change really comes into practice. Okay, I'll just pause there. I know I said a lot of things. Just to summarize again, always think of the levels of impact, right? When you're thinking of activities. What is a system? What is systems change? And you can always map your system using the 5 R's. And going forward, when you talk about systems, you can talk about systems using the 5 R's. That will help you build a stronger language and a stronger sense of the kind of activities you can do in a system.
One guideline for doing the exercises. These exercises are always meant to be just practice. It's not supposed to be exhaustive. Don't write essays. They ask you like what do you want to change? You think immediately about the thing you care about most. Is it water? Then just put water quality. You know what I mean? So this is not supposed to be a thesis. It's just for practice, for you to navigate and learn the module through some practice. Yeah, and then when you're sharing, it's like popcorn, just like the few highlights. You don't have to tell a long story.
Yeah,
it is possible.
And that's what I would say, Cynthia. Don't get intimidated. It is these frameworks can be new for a lot of you. I would say take it, read more about it, and start building that as a practice in you.
Okay, Rajesh, I think we're gonna hit pause and go to the next module. See you in a bit.
Just also, Cynthia, one more thing. It's going to get a little bit more intense, the next two. So if you want to give, it's not getting easier. So take it easy. Yeah.
And then remember those tips, yeah? Just don't overthink things. Do not overthink, because a lot of these things you already know. I mean, the things like the issues. So in whatever you did wrong in the last one where you wrote too many words, overthought things, don't do those things. We're not gonna take longer time for you, because again, this is just a practice session. Okay, let's hit play. Hi there.
Hi there. How's it going? Is your team still with you, or have they left the premises? Anyone sneaked
Are
off?
you guys still here? Are you guys still here? Body, mind, and soul, or
Yep.
only bodies?
Only bodies, yeah.
It's gone.
Okay, how was that? Over to you, Rajesh, for the unpacking.
Yeah. So if there is any solace that I can offer you, every time I look at systems change content, it drives me crazy. So if that's helpful in any way, don't feel that's driving you crazy. I hope so. This is a sign. This is a good sign. If you think your brain's working, meaning parts of your brain are being stretched like an exercise, it's a good sign. That means the content is working. Okay. All right. Okay, so let's go through this, right? And I thought maybe first, instead of asking you what did you learn, I was thinking I'll just highlight few parts and then get some input from you guys. Yeah. So something that came up in the last module was this word called setting a system change goal, right? And they actually gave you a sentence. Um, See, if it is confusing, don't use it. The purpose of that statement is to bring some focus and to bring articulation to the change you're creating. That is the purpose of that statement. And it is really well set out, like so, because it says in the name of the system, that means define the system first, which is the R that you're changing, right? Any change that you're bringing about in the R can either be an addition, can be a removal, or can be a modification. That means you could add an R, you could remove an R, right? Or you could change an R, right? Say for example, if you think in a system there is a relationship that does not currently exist between indigenous people and the government, then you could say you are creating a relationship. That is a kind of a system change. If you think there is a relationship that exists, but the relationship is only one way and you want to make it more participatory, then you say you modify the relationship. So that's what we mean by changing the R. And any changes you bring in the R's, you'll have to explain it. Like, what is that change? So that is the second part of the sentence, which is the description of that change. And that will result in a new systemic change, right? So that is how that system goes. So I'll just repeat that. In the name of the system, there is a change in one or many of the R's. Define that change, which creates a new result, right? So that's how that sentence will bring more clarity in the way you can set a goal, right? So that is the purpose of a system change goal. Any questions on that or anything you didn't understand about it? See, if I had to give you a tip on defining that goal, you could first start with what is the new result you want the system to create. I'll give you an example. So I think I really like Forever Sabah's vision, which is around building that equitable circular economy in Sabah, right? So if you could say, for example, you're working in a particular system, and if you feel that system is not circular, the result could be circular. So the new result could be to create a circular economy, right, in that system. So if you have to do that, then you need to know which system you're talking about. Then you need to figure out what is the R's that you're changing or adding or modifying, and what is that change. So that's how that entire sentence would flow. Yeah. Okay, so that is around system goals. The second, I think, important thing this module brought about is this concept of direct versus indirect impact, right? So do you have any questions around it or any insights that came up for you while listening to direct versus indirect impact?
Anyone here or online?
I think I really resonate with the indirect impact approach. Speaking from experiences, some organizations here in Sabah share a lot of their knowledge and experiences to other organizations, and other organizations have been using those methods and approaches and for impact, and it's still ongoing until now. So and it does have an impact on the community.
Yeah.
Just speaking from experience.
No,
Rather than controlling that knowledge and not wanting to share, or like yeah.
No, thanks a lot for sharing. We are all in the business of impact, and if we truly want a new, a new change or a new norm or that impact to spread, at some level we have to be willing to let go of control. So, and when you think about scaling, there are different ways to scale, and one of the ways that you can scale in our space is to say that how do you scale an idea without scaling the organization? That means without increasing the number of people to run that work, can that idea scale? You know, so more and more people are replicating it. I'll give you an example. So I think I really like Forever Sabah's vision, which is around building that equitable circular economy in Sabah, right? So if you could say, for example, you're working in a particular system, and if you feel that system is not circular, the result could be circular. So the new result could be to create a circular economy, right, in that system. So if you have to do that, then you need to know which system you're talking about. Then you need to figure out what is the R's that you're changing or adding or modifying, and what is that change. So just to wrap up, just sharing few highlights. So the first highlight is every day in Forever Sabah and outside Forever Sabah, you're solving problems for the community. You might see these problems. The first thing I would recommend is to figure out where is this problem in the system, or why is this problem around? Is there something wrong in the system that can be changed? Something you should also understand, the systems were always designed in favor of few people. If systems were inclusive, if it considered everyone, if it was efficient, then sometimes we might not see problems as is. But the general thing about systems is they're always a power structure designed for few people, right? That's why some people get excluded. So that's the first thing. Use the 5R framework to map any system that you're in, right? That will give you an understanding of what it is right now. Then you ask yourself, how different can the system be? If you want a system to change, you have to first change the results. What is the new result you want in the system? If you want that new result, which means creating a new state for the system, then you need to figure out what are the other things that need to change in the system to get you the new result, right? Once you figure that out, once you figure out that change, then you design solutions that either create direct impact or indirect impact, right? And at the end of the day, when you bring these solutions together with your stakeholders or with your teams or with your beneficiaries, then what is really important is how do you practice shared leadership? How do you bring everybody into a conversation for the ecosystem rather than an ecosystem? And I think that's when true social change starts to happen. And this work that we are talking about is easily between 5 to 10 years. It is not a short game. Systems change is a long-term game. So that's where you think about it and then you create that change. Yeah, that's it from me. Cynthia, over to you.
Thank you so much, Rajesh. Thanks for hanging in there for the 4 hours with us. All right, let's give Rajesh a big hand and give him some love. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Look forward to seeing
Don't see his
everyone
face.
here in KK next time.
Thank you.
Yeah, see you.
Give him some hearts. Thank you so much, Rajesh. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye.